Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Whatever It Takes Wednesday. This is Dan McCall here. This is episode number 27. I have an awesome guest here, Lisa Kidder. So really happy to have you on here. You're the second female so far.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So last week we had our first. That was cool. And yeah, I'm just really happy to have you on here. I've been following you for a long time on Facebook and social media, Twitter, and everywhere else, and we'll talk about that kind of thing. And I know I know you have lots of wisdom on me here too, because I was just reading your bio that I swiped here, and been in home business profession since 1985. So I was like 5 years old. So I know that you got a little wisdom on me there.
Oh, great. Thanks for making me feel a little old.
Oh man, see, I'm messing up already. So,
That's great.
so first question here, we're gonna take it back, kind of peel the layers back of Lisa Kidder here. So who is Lisa Kidder, and where you're from, Lisa?
Hey, well, thanks, Dan. Hey, number one, thank you for inviting me, and I'm super excited to be the second female on your show. How cool is that? So a little bit about me. Yeah, I was born in Michigan, but my dad hauled Alaska in the early 70s, and so I was raised in Alaska. You know, he wanted to live off the land, so we had no running water, no electricity, and we lived off the land. My dad was a gold miner, so kind of a wild story, and it ended up, being a good experience looking back. I mean, during the experience, I wasn't too hip on it because I was the only girl, had a couple brothers. They thought it was great, fishing, hunting, all that fun stuff. I thought it was brutal because I was the girl that was kind of into, the hair, the makeup, the fashion, all that stuff. So it was a little bit challenging growing up that way. But in retrospect, it was phenomenal as far as toughening me up, making me the person I am today that can basically accomplish anything I decide to accomplish, So became a single mom at age 18. My son Brendan's now almost your age, Dan. No, my son, yeah, he's like 35 now, and professional speaker, published, successful best-selling author, and all that fun stuff. But I looked to network marketing in '85 because I was looking for a way to accomplish more in my life and to be a good example for him.
Wow, that's awesome, and you must be proud too. He's a book author and professional speaker and stuff like that. Those are actually a few of my in the near future kind of goals. So it's that's really cool. You must be proud.
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, it's been a process. The journey's been very challenging, ups and downs and all that, and especially for me in my early career. And then my son, has a lot of experience too. It's funny how when you're going through all the trials and tribulations, especially, being an entrepreneur, being self-employed, that takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of guts to stick with it when things aren't going well, when the money is not coming in, and so it was very inspiring for me to always have him looking at me, because it caused me to step up and to become more than I probably would have ever become had it just been me on my own. I probably would have chickened out and gone back to a job, to be honest with you.
Wow. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That actually makes me think. That's one of our questions that's going to be coming up too. Is what is your why? Like, why do you do what you do? So it looks like you're already started tapping into that a little bit, and I can relate to that too. Because I have 3 kids and a fiance, and we're getting ready to get married, and so it's like it's
right.
It's good to have that driving force behind you. And so if you want to elaborate, if you don't mind elaborating on that, since that just flowed right in the conversation. I like to let these conversations flow. Since I've been doing this, I always write these different questions down. But if something comes up first, I just let it flow, because that seems like the best way to do it. So, like, if you don't mind elaborating, like, what motivates you? Like, what is your why, and what motivates you to do what you do?
I mean, early on, like I say, being a struggling single mom, raising my son, on my own, had ambitions to get out of Alaska. I love Alaska, to always be home. but I like to visit Alaska on my terms in the summertime. I'm not hip on the long winters and the 6 months of darkness. That wasn't my deal. So I had set a goal that by the time I was 25, I wanted to be out of Alaska. So that's what I did. I mean, I packed up my little Ford Escort and my son, and we headed to Northern California. I didn't know anybody in the whole state. Just figured I'd make friends. So we got to California in '87. So, I mean, that was a huge, a huge accomplishment, just being able to leave the comfort zone to really challenge myself to get out and do something different as far as, getting to California. But answer your question, my why has always been to provide a better life for my son. And now I've got grandchildren, I've got a granddaughter. I don't know if you'll have to look on my Facebook wall. She's a tennis prodigy. She just turned 12. She's just been accepted into one of the top tennis academies in the entire world, where Serena Williams, Venus Williams, they all went. It's $100,000 a year tuition, So, I mean, these kinds of things drive me. To be able to provide my family opportunities I never had. I mean, when I was 11, 12 years old, I wasn't thinking about becoming a professional anything, tennis player, sport athlete, and then pursuing it with an incredible passion like Sophia has done. So that's my son's daughter. So it's always come down to family for me, Dan, being able to provide something better and more opportunities than what I ever had. And, not to blame my parents. Clearly, my parents did the best they could with what they had to work with. There was always a lot of love, just not a lot of money or opportunity for us. So it's very exciting to be at this place in my life now, to be able to offer opportunities.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So this is a question I like to ask. I always like to ask, all your entrepreneur people, because it's sometimes it's a tough question. Sometimes it's not a tough question. Probably depends on how long you've been in the business, or maybe not. Sometimes we're in different places in our business and it's harder to answer. So what do you say when people ask you what you do? I'm just curious. I mean, I know some of the things that you do. I was just curious if you had a particular answer to that.
Well, I mean, for the last, 16, 17 years full time, I've been a success coach and a trainer for our profession, a professional speaker, and so forth. But I do also get into network marketing when I see opportunity, especially as affiliate marketing. I just recently came on with a network marketing company, hired me to be their corporate trainer, and I'm also going to start building with that company as well. So, for me, it's like the answer is easy. I mean, I assist people with creating financial and personal freedom for themselves. I'm looking for the people that are motivated dreamers, people that are really excited to do something different in life, and I'm the person that guides them and supports them and assists them and shows them exactly how to do that, because I've been there and done that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so you seem pretty good on your time. Like, you seem like real sharp with that. Like, with just us hopping on before we hopped on even, you're like, yeah, I got to be at an appointment sharp at 2:00 and stuff like that. So do you have so I want to dig into a little bit about your schedule and stuff like that, being that you have success, and what a lot of people want to have success, and a lot of people want to be able to work from home, come and go as they please, do what they want, when they want, with whom they want, and have that lifestyle on their terms like you have. So let's dig a little bit into your day-to-day and your morning rituals and things like that. So this is a couple part answer. So one, do you have any morning rituals? Number one, and then number two, like what's your DMO like?
Yeah, I mean, for me, primarily in the morning, usually you'll find me out on the tennis court. It's hot in Arizona, so we try to get out early, 6:37. We're playing tennis on the tennis court. So that's kind of, my go-to situation as far as clearing my mind, preparing for the day, getting my exercise in, having family time, because we all play tennis. My husband, my son, the grandkids, we all play. Everybody plays tennis. So that's kind of our thing. That's our family time, as well as it's just a great opportunity to get out in the fresh air. Like I said before, the Arizona heat comes on, for the day. We try to get out early because it's already like 85, 90, at 6 in the morning. So the morning starts off with some kind of exercise. Then I come back, walk the dogs. Usually I'll plug into some kind of positivity of some sort. That's always been big for me as far as affirmation for the day or affirmation for the week, or reading a passage out of a powerful book, or going and visiting, somebody's website that I thought was really inspiring, whatever. I try to start my day always with positivity, a mental outlook for the day, and set up the day. You got to set up your day with your vision of what you're going to accomplish before the day ever gets started. So I always kind of have a target in mind, whether it's a monetary target, whether it's bringing on a new client target, or whatever it might be, but I challenge myself every single day, and I'll usually write down whatever that target is, and I'll circle it for the day, or I might do it the night before, but especially I'll do it in the morning and just write it down, make a circle around it, and then just say that's happening today. And a lot of times people say, well, how? I don't know how. All I know is I'm going to do whatever it takes to make that happen today. So if that means I've got to have a lot of conversations, lots of follow-up conversations on social media, maybe make some personal phone calls, outbound calls, whatever I've got to do, follow up. I'm going to hit that target, whatever I set that target for the day. And then I just work the entire day with the intention of hitting the target. And I don't, go to bed until I have done it. So, and it's been a habit of mine for almost 30 years.
Yeah, that's a great habit. And, I've incorporated some similar patterns and stuff like that too. It just like I use I don't have to use something like this, like a memo thing in your phone where you have your.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, it's like a crazy checklist. I'm a crazy checklist junkie.
Yeah, everything's on my smartphone.
Yeah, that's great. It's powerful. It's powerful. I mean, the disciplines. It's like people want to have, a great lifestyle, but they don't have discipline, and it's important to have a schedule. So is that what you, so if you don't mind me asking, is that what you use? You use your smartphone to log in all that information?
Yeah, I do. I use my smartphone, but I'm also old school. I love to have notebooks, file folders for everything. I'm still old school in that regard. So I like to be organized as far as if I have to touch a piece of paper more than once, I'm going to make a file folder for it, stack it up on my desk, that it's at a glance. I can grab it. I can get to it. I don't have to dig around trying to find it. I also am old school as far as I'm a note taker. I take notes on everything and everybody. Anybody said anything that I need to remember or be able to utilize later, whether it's to follow up with them for potentially closing them for coaching or business of some kind. I'm a big note taker. And then I just, like I say, if I have to touch the paper more than once, I'll create a file for it. I'm not the most organized person. This hasn't come naturally for me. Dan, that hasn't come naturally. That's something that I've developed over the years, because what I realized early on as a young entrepreneur is that I was not very organized. There were so many people that I meant to follow up with and never got around to it. Phone calls I meant to make and didn't do, or people that were interested, but because I didn't follow up or, didn't touch base with them, I probably missed out on a lot of sales, a lot of opportunities for people to partner with me in my businesses and so forth, back in the early days. And I was fortunate enough to have a mentor who is extremely organized, like obsessive organized. And so I learned lots of tips and things from him as far as being organized. And it really did have an impact on my business. And you mentioned something a minute or two ago about how people want that financial freedom. They want that time freedom. But you don't get that early on. I mean, even now, I probably put in more time than most, average people that have a job or, maybe even top CEOs. I love it though. You'll always find me in my office because I think I have a passion for what I do. I love what I do. So it's really not work. I'll come in here in the morning before I go play tennis and drink my coffee and check social media, do some follow up, that kind of stuff. Don't you agree? I mean, that's sort of, it's a habit you develop over time. At least I developed it over time of understanding I always have to do what's best for my business, not necessarily what's best for me. And a lot of times people get that confused. They think, oh, well, I'm self-employed now. I can do whatever I want. And it's like, well, yeah, you get to do that once you've established your business and you've got enough of a foundation laid that you are in a position to be able to do that. And if you have hit all your goals and stuff like that, then that's great. But the time freedom doesn't come, the first couple of years. For me, it didn't come for the first 10 years. I didn't have that. I was working a couple of different oddball jobs while building my entrepreneurial business on the side. And then the day came where I just said, I'm going to go full time with this thing. And I didn't have the resources to do it. I just had a lot of ambition, a lot of desire, a lot of passion, and an amazing work ethic. And so, that the evening hours would oftentimes, and still do, find me in my home office. When I see all the lights in my neighborhood have gone out, my light's still on. I'm in here cranking it out. I'm in here following up with people. And that's a habit that I think people really have to understand, that if you want to be self-employed and you really want that long-term, everybody's chasing that dream of long-term freedom, then you've got to pay the price at some point. And I choose to pay the price, every day, because it's worth that much to me to be able to have that kind of flexibility.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I like how you're playing tennis in the morning too. It makes me think about being a little bit more creative with my workouts, because my workouts, over the years, I always try to change it up, so I don't get bored or whatever.
Well, I love tennis. I love tennis because it's a physical and mental sport. You cannot be thinking about anything else when you're playing tennis. It's impossible. You cannot think of anything else. You've got to be focused on the game. It's a strategy game. So not only are you getting a great physical workout, you're getting a great mental workout. It keeps me sharp, because you've got to constantly be strategizing and paying attention. You can't be distracted for one split second, or you're going to miss the ball and, maybe lose a point or whatever.
Interesting. So I imagine that it probably gives you a good break too from your work life and your family life and everything else too. It's probably pretty.
Oh, it's a blast.
Your DMO, just kind of, you forget about everything else, and that's awesome.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Makes me want to consider playing in the future.
Yeah, it's a blast, and we laugh so hard. Like I said, the whole family's involved, so that's a lot of the time we spend, with the grandkids. My husband and I. My husband's obsessed. I mean, he's been playing tennis. Before that, it was, he was like a big racquetball champion in Canada. So he's like all about the physical fitness. So it's a big part of our lives.
That's awesome. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So, okay. So we covered that, your morning rituals, DMO, and I appreciate you sharing all that kind of stuff, because it's good to get inside your head a little bit here too. And I like how transparent you were about, like, and not always being easy to do all that, to have a structured work style. Because, that's one thing I've noticed. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, since I was 17. 18 is more accurate. I'm 37 now, so I guess I could say 19 years, and 20 years is an exaggeration. But for 19 years, I've been an entrepreneur. What's that?
A long time. That's a long time.
Exactly. So when you were talking about, like, like a lot of people want to have the lifestyle where they can come and go as they please, do what they want when they want, and create their own schedule and do all those great things that are like the highlights of it, but they don't want to put in the work. And sometimes when people get it too, it's something that I noticed too, just from my own personal life and personal experience. Get things organized, get things going real well, and you end up putting your feet up. And that's when that's when things when things start to not work out as well. So it's I'm sure you probably have experienced that kind of thing too, where things are going great, then you put your feet up and you're like, everything's going great, and then things start not going as good. So, and that kind of goes back to what you were saying about discipline and just and working your business every day. So I love that. So if you don't mind me asking, what got you into entrepreneurship? Was there something that triggered that, like in your past? Did you work for somebody else before? Did you always work for yourself? Like, let's just dig into that a little bit.
No, I mean, I always wanted to work for myself. My parents were in a network marketing company with the big A, right? Back in the 70s, the big A company. They never made any money with it, but they tinkered with it too. They didn't really understand it, but it was enough for me to kind of be curious about it. This was like the late 70s, right? These books that would come to the house. It was like a book of the month club kind of a thing. And no one else ever opened the books or really were curious or read the books. So I started opening them and reading the books. And, imagine I'm like 14 years old, 15 years old, and I'm reading these books on self-improvement, self-to-business, all that kind of stuff. So that really was an opening for me to realize there was other opportunities. There were other things available rather than just working a job for the rest of your life. Plus, I always, even at a young age, I always thought if someone's going to be the boss, it really needs to be me. I don't know where that came from, but I think I was born with that. Like, okay, if someone's going to be in charge, it really should be me because I should be in charge. So that kind of doesn't sit well when you're a young person having a job for the first time. So what happened is, thankfully, like I said, I just had an amazing work ethic. So I started working at a hotel when I was 19. I had just turned 19, and the drinking age in Alaska at that time was 19. So in order for me to manage, or to be working, it wasn't managing, to work in the hotel lounge, it had a 24-hour liquor store, 23-hour liquor store, a 24-hour cafe, a lounge that was open 14 hours a day, all that stuff. I had to be 19. So I just had my son. He was not even a whole year old. Anyway, I started working in that capacity. And by the time I was 20, 21, I was managing the whole thing. The owner had said, wow, you're so organized and good at this stuff and good with people skills. There was 40 employees. She said, why don't you just take over, and run my business for me? And I'll just pop in a couple times in the morning and then at night to close out the tills and cash out and everything. And I was like, deal. So that was a big responsibility at a young age. I loved it. She was one of my earliest mentors. I think she her name was Janet Kincaid. She was just at the Valley Hotel in Alaska. If any of my Alaska friends are watching, Palmer, Alaska, you know it. You know that place. It's still a thriving business today. But she was one of my earliest mentors. So that was kind of the catalyst for me to decide that someday, some way, somehow, I was going to be my own boss with my own business. So I know this is a long answer to a short question, but there's a little history, a little buildup that has to happen here, Dan, that kind of segues into, by the time, again, I was about, 22 years old, when I really looked at network marketing, and I was going for that pink Cadillac, which I never got, by the way, through no fault of the company. It was just me. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was excited to go for that pink Cadillac with those pink cosmetics. And I worked that diligently, gave away more product than I ever sold. It was a whole try before you buy. I didn't really understand how all that worked. But it was, again, such a great learning opportunity for me. And it just cemented the fact that I should be my own boss. So over the years, I would work a job if necessary, because that meant if we were about to starve to death or something, or I needed a roof over my head, I would go into property management. I helped launch Jenny Craig weight loss centers in the United States, in California back in 1988. I had a lot of variety, but always striving with that long-term vision, that long-term goal of being my own boss. So there's a little history.
Yeah, I love it. I love to get to know you, and I'm sure a lot of other people like it more. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Hey, Alexios, turn that sound off, buddy. You're going in the other room. I'm sorry, a little background noise. The kids.
Hey, that's the benefits of working from home. The luxuries. I've got dogs that can bark at any minute. So.
Oh yeah. Speaking of coaching, I know you're doing coaching in a half an hour. I've done coaching calls with people where my kids would be in the background screaming and fighting and stuff like that, and trying to kill each other, and I would be all embarrassed and stuff like that. The funny thing about it is people actually usually end up liking it. They're like, oh, okay, your household's crazy too, and they end up liking it.
It makes you a real person, right? It makes you a real person dealing with real people stress and real people situations.
Yeah, exactly. So now one of them's turning the microwave on.
Sorry. It's all good.
So anyway, so I heard you like referencing like get like when you're talking about your entrepreneurial journey and stuff like that. You and you know how it came into fruition and the different things that you've gone through. I heard you started touching on like reading books, and you also touched on that like your daily rituals and your DMOs that you do every day and things like that. So I like to ask every time I do these shows, and I like to always put it in the comment thread too. I begin a different book each week. Well, do you have any book recommendations? That like a number one book that's off the top of your head right now, like right now, it's something that you're feeling right now, like not necessarily the best book of all time or anything like that.
I don't know. I have so many books. I've read thousands of books. I mean, there's books that I always go back to that are kind of my go-to books. And I would say for spirituality, my go-to book is The Complete Writings of Florence Scovel Shinn, or The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. That's just a constant. That's a book I have will continuously reference for the rest of my life, because if there's ever an obstacle, a challenge, a question, that's just a book that I can go to. I mean, that for people who are not familiar with Florence Scovel Shinn, it's a spiritual book, not religious. She was a metaphysician. She wrote her first book in 1925. It's still applicable today to every bit of life experiences. You can read that book and be like, oh my gosh, it's amazing that she wrote this book in 1925 and I can still apply the principles from it today. Kind of like a Think and Grow Rich, right? Speak of Think and Grow Rich. I mean, that's a great go-to book, a great constant, And then if you're looking for more of like uplifting or positivity, I'm always a big Dr. Norman Vincent Peale fan. I'm Robert Schuller fan. I like the magic of thinking big. I mean, Atlas Shrugs, you name it. I love them. I love them all, and I'll pick up a book that I've read 20 times and I'll read it again and be like, oh my gosh, I missed this. How did I miss this? Or why didn't I get this? And I think it's as we evolve, as we're mentally at a different place and we can read the same material years later, and all of a sudden stuff we thought we got before, all of a sudden we really get it. So I'm a firm believer in the classics. I love the classics. I love the older books. Like I have a first edition of How to Win Friends, Influence People, by Dale Carnegie. I mean, all of these are my favorite books. I know there's lots of new books out. I should probably talk about my son's book.
Yeah. What was that first one? What was that first one called again? I'm going to type that out real quick.
The Complete Writings of Florence Scovel Shinn. So The Complete Writings of Florence Scovel, Scovel, Shinn, and S.
How do you spell the last name?
It's two last names. So Scovel, Scovel, and then Shinn, Shinn.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna re-edit it later.
Yeah. Okay. So Florence Scovel Shinn, and then for like 21st century self-help that's unedited. If you don't want if you want like unfiltered self-help with curse words and real life, examples and stuff in there. My son's book is Still Breathing, The Wisdoms and Teachings of a Perfectly Flawed Man. It's a huge bestseller, and it's definitely not for the timid. There's a lot of humor. It's a great book. I read it completely through. Forgot it was even my son's book. I was reading it and so intent on it. I stayed up till 3 a.m. the first time I read it. I skipped the sex chapters, though, just so you know. The sexual energy chapters, I don't want to read that part about my son's book. So my mom and I both skipped that section. We're like, okay, fast forward. Nobody wants to read that, right? With their kid, with their own kid. So he talked about sexual energy and all that fun stuff, and I was like, ooh, we'll be bypassing. But really, his book is phenomenal, but it is unfiltered self-help. It's like 21st century, here's the real deal stuff, F-bombs and curse words, and it's a great book, though. It's unbelievable. You won't want to put it down.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to check. I'll have to put that in there, too. What was that one called?
Still Breathing, The Wisdoms and Teachings.
Still Breathing. Okay.
The Wisdom and Teachings of a Perfectly Flawed Man. And you can find him on Twitter. It's Brendan Dilley, Dilley.
Okay.
He's got
Awesome.
a pretty huge Twitter following, and he does live. He does a live broadcast that's political slash self-help. That's got about 100,000 views every time they air it, so it's a pretty big show.
Wow. Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, good stuff, Dan. You're getting me all excited here talking about all this positive stuff.
Yeah, I'm always looking for new books myself too. Like when I do this, like I'm just on here, just feeding right off my guests here too. So every week I'm getting these new book recommendations. Totally. And yeah, I have a couple of them.
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, I just heard you say The Magic of Thinking Big too, which is like the third time I heard that this week. So to me, that's a cue. You know what I mean? To check that out. I haven't checked that one out yet. And I totally know what you mean.
That was a huge book. Huge. One of the first big self-help books I read way back in the day. Yeah, good book. You'll love it.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, and I know exactly what you mean too about reading books like multiple times and like coming back. It's almost like the same book. Meaning you could read the same book to each of us. You know what I mean? Because it's like we're in different places, like in our life and our journey, like lots of different things, like how educated we are, how old we are, like everything. There's lots of, male, female, like there's just, so I know exactly what you mean. And I definitely encourage that too, to the folks watching too, to go back and read some of your old favorites and stuff like that, because you get some different things out of it and have a different perspective. And what I always like to say, why I do lots of calls like this and stuff like that is because I like to have a higher awareness of it. And I'm sure you can relate to that too. It's like you're having a higher awareness of the information. You know what I mean? So, because like anybody can quote somebody like, oh yeah, they give this fancy quote like XYZ, does or whatever. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they understand it. If they understood it, their life would probably be better. You know what I mean? They'd probably be in a better place, like the person that made up the quote to begin with, right?
That definitely. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, like I remember the first time I read Think and Grow Rich. I mean, it might as well have been in a foreign language because I thought I was into self-development. I thought I was into business stuff, but when I read that book, it was like completely reading a foreign language. I didn't get it. I mean, I was excited about it, but I really didn't understand it the first time through, and had to go back through and highlight it and make notes. And even today, when I pick up that book, there's always something new that I get out of it because, like you said, you evolve and you're at a completely different place than you may have been, 20, 25 years ago when you read it for the first time.
Yeah, awesome. So here's one of my favorite questions here. I think this is a really valuable question, and people could get a lot out of it. If you could go, and I don't know if you watch any of my shows and heard me say this one or not, but if you could go back in a time machine, like Lisa Kidder is able to go into a time machine and literally go back to the old Lisa Kidder when she first got started, what kind of advice would you give yourself? And obviously, this is a good question because a lot of people are in that place, right?
Well, if I could go back to a time, I would probably go back to where I was earning my biggest money at that, my earliest time of earning six-figure monthly income, 50,000 monthly income consistently. I would go back to that time and I would slap the piss out of myself. Literally, that I had no idea. I mean, I was just spending money like it was water, I didn't understand that, that flow wasn't necessarily always going to be there. I mean, I literally still to this day have, 200 pair of shoes. I mean, that I spent big money on, lots of vacations, lots of trips. I wasn't educated then because I didn't grow up with money. So when I started earning that kind of money, it was like a hot potato. I had to get rid of it as quick as possible. So I was always giving money away, buying stuff I didn't really need. I would go back now in a time machine and say, get educated on those millions of dollars that you're earning right now, get educated on what to do with them. Invest that money, put it into real estate, put it into annuities, put it into, you know what I mean? I didn't know, and all that money just slipped through my fingers because I had never had money before. But so by the time I started earning that kind of money, it was just crazy, stupid stuff I was spending it on, not understanding, how I could have leveraged that way back then and still, be enjoying reaping the rewards of all that money had I invested it and had I really been educated about money at that point in time instead of just blowing through it so quick. I mean, they always came again, but still, those early years, you ask about a time machine, those early years of that first big 7-figure annual income years, I wish I would have known a lot more about money and been more serious about educating myself on it.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's the first time somebody said that. Like when I asked that question, instead of going back to the beginning, you went to where you were making money. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's so valuable. And a lot of people that are in their journey when they start making money, I see lots of young people too, like making lots of money, and I just see them blowing it like crazy too. So definitely makes sense to me. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty disciplined myself because I have this thing called fear. I'm just afraid it's not going to last. So I don't really spend money like that. But I do believe in the one saying too of just like letting money flow too. So it's, but definitely hear what you're saying, and I appreciate you saying that because it's you're just sharing that's like really solid wisdom, for
Well, I
somebody
think
out
it's
there.
important to get educated now. Start educating yourself now with anticipation that if you're not in that place yet, you will be. And you want to have knowledge about money, about finances, about, like I said, about leveraging it. These Dan, I went off and dropped $1.5 million on a resort in Canada. What the heck? I call it my last resort because I'm not doing that again, right? I bought
Right.
a resort in Canada that was fly in or boat in only. It was just insane. What am I doing? Dropping $1.5 million on a resort in Canada and then not even investigating, what the tax exchange was. I mean, the repercussions of doing business in a foreign country that has a much higher tax rate than we do. I mean, it was just crazy stuff like that is what I'm talking about. That, if you're anticipating and you're striving right now to be able to earn money, do yourself a favor right now, begin to understand it, go through the whole rich dad, poor dad stuff and really the cash flow quadrant, start educating yourself about how money works so that when it comes, and the riches will come if you're doing all the right things, then you're more prepared for it. And like I said, you can set yourself up literally for the rest of your life if you do it right.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you. So here's one of my really just kind of fun questions here. Nothing. It doesn't have to be anything particular, but like, is there anything about Lisa? So, is there anything about Lisa Kidder that not a lot of people know?
Let's see. What is there about me?
To put your shoes on backwards.
No, I'm just. I don't know. I think a lot of people probably wouldn't realize how handy I am. Meaning, I grew up in Alaska with a dad and a couple brothers, so there's not much. You need a crescent wrench, I can go get it for you. You need a Allen wrench, I know what that is. I can probably fix almost anything. I'm pretty handy dandy, so I'm kind of the foo-foo girl, but I also have the side of me that, you want to go fishing. Great. Let's roll. I don't get seasick. I can go 25 miles out. Let's go get the halibut, so I can do that. I can shoot a gun. There's lots of things I can do, that I would suppose people would probably find kind of odd and unusual that they wouldn't know about me. But that's one of them, is that I am kind of a girly girl. I like all the luxuries. But if you want to go up to Alaska or Canada and you said, let's go rough it, I mean, it's not my ideal thing. anymore, but I could certainly do it. And I do like to fish, so yeah, I could do all that kind of stuff. No worries. I got your back. We don't have to worry about grizzlies. I can shoot my rifle, no problem.
Nice, nice. That's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know that about you. That you shoot guns and that kind of thing. So cool. Very, very, very cool. So here's so let me make sure I got all these questions here. Okay, we covered all that. So how can so let's get into this. How can people get in touch with Lisa Kidder if they like to work with you or anything like that?
Yeah, cool. Let's see. There's a couple ways. I'm all over social media. I love Facebook, even though my son's been encouraging me more and more to utilize Twitter because he makes an obscene amount of money on Twitter every month, and he's got this huge real following. You didn't buy anybody on Twitter, but I'm still learning Twitter. So if you really want to find her, it's Kitter, or you can go to my website, lisakitter.com. So Lisa, Lisa, Kitter, Kitter.com. And then you can find me, like I say, I live on Facebook. Facebook's been very good to me and my businesses over the years. I have a lot of business friends there, lots of people that I still know from, elementary, junior high, high school. We're a tight bunch from Alaska. So I am very much on Facebook. So you can find me there at Lisa Kitter, Kitter. You can find me. I have a business page over there as well as a personal page. You can either follow me on my personal page or go check out my business page. You give it a like or what have you. Those are the best places to find me.
Okay, awesome, very cool, very cool. I just dropped that in the comment there too. You can find Lisa at lisakitter.com. So yeah, so it's a nice website too. I was just looking at it.
Oh, thanks.
Really,
you can
really nice.
you can go to my website. You can actually message me or do a chat with me from the website as well. But I'm pretty accessible, not hard to find. Got lots of great information back there as far as some products, some training stuff. If someone's looking for specifically for some one-on-one, mentoring, coaching, I've coached over 2,000 people one-on-one over the phone or over Skype, just like this. I definitely can assist. I've coached some of the top 6 and 7 figure income earners in our profession. We won't drop names, but lots of them have coached with me or have been in business, in my downline over the years. So I definitely can assist anybody that's in the entrepreneur world or self-help world that just requires a little extra boost or some guidance. I'm happy to assist.
Awesome. Yeah, I imagine a lot of your coaching is like that, like you're trying to help them just kind of get over some mental hurdles and stuff like that. Seems like that's some of the major stuff that I deal with when I do coaching, in a different space than you, but it always seems to go back to those mental hurdles, So,
absolutely.
But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So cool. So thank you very much for coming on the show today. Definitely appreciate it. And it looks like we're going to be able to get you right on time for your 2:00 coaching appointment.
Awesome.
So our last last thing here, do you have any last words of encouragement for anybody out there, getting started, as an entrepreneur that you'd like to share before we close this out?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I just would say stick with it. There's going to be people that tell you you're crazy. So what? There's going to be people that are not supportive. Go find people who are supportive. I learned early on to completely eliminate, to the best of my ability, anybody that was not supportive of my goals and my dreams. And that meant cutting out a lot of people from my life, even if it was for a period of time. But you got to be true to you. There were times I struggled. Like I said, I didn't have food to put on the table. My mom's church had to take up a collection to turn my electric. It was challenging. I sold all of my furniture in order to buy leads. And back in the day, I don't know if it might be before your time, Dan, but we used to pay 15 cents a minute for long distance, and we thought we were getting a smoking deal, right? So my phone bill sometimes was $1,200 a month at 15 cents a minute, So you just push through. You know, you've got to absolutely stay faithful, stay true to you, make sure you know what your vision is, and then don't let anybody sway you from it. I mean, nobody. My motto is, you know, I'll do it with you, but I can do it without you too. You know, I can do it with you, and I'd love you to be a part of it. But if you're not supportive and you're not on board, then I'll do it without you. You know, because I'm going to get it done. And I think people, you know, really have to understand that sometimes being an entrepreneur and sometimes pursuing your dreams and goals, it can be a lonely place. That's why it's important to plug into, you know, people like you that offer the support, that offer the encouragement, that bring in different talents and people that have kind of been there and done that. You know, plug into the best of your ability. If you can't go buy a book or go to Amazon, and go to the library. We still have libraries. You know, go check out a book. Go check out an audio series. Go get online. Whatever you got to do to plug into the resources that are currently available, especially here in the 21st century, do it. You know, don't allow anybody to keep you from achieving whatever it is that you truly desire with all your heart, because it's possible. I mean, how could a broke single mom from Alaska, you know, come out and achieve, you know, the American dream? It's possible. You can do it.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. Very, very good. Very good closing thoughts. So thank you very much, Lisa. I really appreciate you. If there's anything I can ever do for you anytime, you know, you just let me know. You know, appreciate you giving me that A go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're welcome.
That's funny, right?
How funny is that, right? That's cool. Well,
yeah, thank you so much too. I appreciate it. You know, thank you to everybody that came out and watched the show here. You know, whatever it takes. Wednesday. This is episode number 27, and I look forward to seeing everybody on the next show. All right, bye for now.
Thanks again. Bye bye.